In a serene, secluded village situated among fog-covered mountains, a young boy named Kai lived with his mother. His father had disappeared long before he could remember, and his mother rarely spoke of him. The villagers whispered about a tragedy involving Kai's father, but his mother's eyes would always darken whenever the subject came up. Kai often wondered why his mother seemed so sad, and why she was always cautious around strangers. His curiosity grew with each passing day, but his mother's warnings kept him from asking too many questions. One evening, as Kai sat by the hearth, his mother told him to stay close, as a storm was brewing. But as the wind howled, Kai noticed something strange. His mother seemed restless, like she was waiting for something or someone. The firelight flickered, casting shadows that danced like ghosts. Kai, despite his mother's instructions, felt a deep urge to step outside and look at the night sky. But before he could move, a soft knock echoed through the door. Kai hesitated as his mother hurried to the door, her expression tight with worry. She opened it just a crack, peering outside. A figure stood in the rain, hooded and drenched. The stranger's voice was barely audible over the storm as he asked to come in. Kai's mother exchanged a glance with the figure, her face filled with something between fear and recognition. She reluctantly stepped aside, allowing the stranger in. Kai could feel the tension thick in the air. Who was this man, and why did his mother seem so wary of him? As the man entered, his eyes locked onto Kai. There was something in those eyes, something that Kai couldn't quite place, but it made him feel like the air was alive with secrets. The stranger's gaze softened as he looked at the boy, and he smiled faintly, though there was sadness in his eyes. Kai's mother hastily shut the door behind him, her movements swift and deliberate. "Kai," she said quietly, "this is someone from our past." But her voice trembled, and Kai wondered just how deep those past secrets ran. The man removed his hood, revealing a face that was both familiar and strange to Kai. He had the same sharp eyes and strong jawline as his father, but his expression was worn, weathered as if he'd seen too much of the world's darkness. Kai's heart raced. Was this truly his father, returned from the dead, or was this some kind of cruel joke? His mother avoided his gaze as the man sat down, placing a damp satchel beside him. The fire crackled, filling the silence. "Your mother didn't want you to know," the man said, his voice low and steady. "But I think it's time you understand the truth about what happened." Kai's mind swirled with questions. Why had his father left? Why had his mother never spoken of him? The man's voice, though calm, carried an edge of urgency. "There are things on the other side of this world, boy, things you're not meant to know. But your time is coming." Kai felt a chill run down his spine. His mother, who had been so protective, was now silent, her hands trembling in her lap. The stranger continued to speak, his words growing darker. "There are forces at play, Kai. Forces that are hidden from ordinary eyes. Your father knew of them, and so did I. But your mother, she has kept you from the truth to protect you." Kai's mind raced. What could possibly be so dangerous that his mother felt the need to shield him from it? His gaze flickered to his mother, who seemed to shrink under the weight of the conversation. "The world you see is only part of the story," the stranger said. "There are things beyond this world, in the realm of the unseen. I once tried to protect your mother from them, but I failed. Now, the time has come for you to face it." Kai's heart pounded. The thought of a hidden world, full of unseen forces, was overwhelming. His mother's face was pale, her eyes filled with an emotion Kai couldn't quite understand. Was she scared for him? Or for herself? Kai's mind was a whirlwind of confusion and fear. He had always believed that the world was simple, what you saw was what you got. But now, his entire reality was being questioned. The stranger's words echoed in his ears, and he could sense the weight of a secret his mother had carried for years. He turned to her, hoping for some clarity. "Mother, what is he talking about? What truth?" His mother met his gaze for the first time since the stranger had arrived. Her eyes were filled with unshed tears. "Kai," she began, her voice barely a whisper, "your father didn't disappear by accident. He was taken. By the things we don't see, by the forces that lurk in the shadows." She paused, her hands clasped tightly together. "I've kept you safe from them, but I can't do that anymore. The time has come for you to know the truth about who you are." Kai's heart sank. Was he really a part of this hidden world his mother had fought so hard to keep him from? The storm outside raged on, but inside, the air was thick with the weight of truth. The stranger, whose name Kai now knew as Ian, stood up, gesturing for Kai to follow him. "Your journey begins now, Kai," he said. "The things you must face will not be easy, but they are your destiny." Kai felt a rush of fear, mixed with something else, curiosity, maybe even determination. Could he truly step into this world of shadows, of forces he didn't understand? Kai's mother stood as well, her eyes filled with sorrow. "I never wanted this for you," she whispered, "but you are stronger than I ever was." She reached out, pulling him into an embrace. "I love you, Kai. And I'm so sorry." Her words stung, but Kai nodded. He had spent his entire life wondering about the mystery of his father's disappearance, and now it seemed that the answer was just within reach. He looked at Ian, ready to take the first step into this world of secrets. The next morning, Ian led Kai into the dense forest that surrounded their village. The trees were thick, casting long shadows that seemed to move on their own. Kai felt a strange sense of unease as he followed Ian deeper into the woods. The air was thick with mist, and every step seemed to echo as if they were walking on a boundary between worlds. Ian stopped suddenly, pointing to a large stone circle hidden among the trees. "This is the door," he said. "It leads to the other side." Kai stared at the stone, its surface covered in strange symbols that seemed to shift when he looked at them. "What's on the other side?" Kai asked, his voice trembling. Ian's eyes darkened. "The truth. And everything you must do to protect the balance." Kai felt his heart race. Was he ready for whatever lay beyond the stone circle? Kai hesitated, but Ian gave him a gentle push forward. As Kai stepped into the stone circle, he felt a strange sensation like being pulled through the very fabric of reality. His surroundings blurred, and for a moment, he couldn't tell if his feet were still on solid ground. When the world around him cleared, he found himself in a place that seemed both familiar and foreign. The air was thick with energy, and the sky was a strange shade of purple, dotted with swirling clouds. "This is the other side," Ian said, his voice distant as Kai looked around in awe. The landscape was vast, filled with towering trees and ancient ruins. The very earth seemed to pulse with life. "It's a world that exists parallel to ours," Ian explained. "And it is under threat." Kai felt a chill run down his spine. Was he truly ready to face whatever dangers lay ahead? As they ventured deeper into the other side, Kai began to notice strange creatures lurking in the shadows. They were unlike anything he had ever seen, ghostly figures, shimmering in the mist, watching from the corners of his vision. Ian explained that these were the forces his father had once fought against, beings that thrived in the unseen world, feeding on fear and chaos. "They are ancient," Ian said, his voice grave. "And they will stop at nothing to break through to your world." Kai felt a knot tighten in his stomach. Was it truly his destiny to face these creatures? Was he strong enough to fight the very forces that had taken his father away? The weight of his responsibility pressed down on him, but a spark of courage began to ignite in his chest. He had no choice but to move forward. Days passed as Kai and Ian traveled across the other side, learning about the forces that threatened to breach the barrier between worlds. Finally, Ian brought Kai to an ancient temple, its doors covered in the same strange symbols Kai had seen on the stone circle. "This is where the balance is maintained," Ian explained. "But it is also where the forces of darkness are strongest. You must prove yourself worthy to protect it." Inside the temple, Kai faced trials designed to test his strength, both physical and mental. He battled shadowy creatures, solved riddles, and overcame his deepest fears. Each challenge pushed him to his limits, but with every victory, he felt himself growing stronger. The boy who had once feared the unknown was becoming a warrior, ready to face the darkness his father had fought against. After days of trials, Kai finally stood before a large stone altar in the heart of the temple. Ian revealed the truth: his father had once been a guardian of the other side, a protector of the balance between worlds. But one fateful night, he had been overpowered by the very creatures they were fighting against, taken to the other side, and trapped in a realm of shadows. Kai's heart broke at the realization, but Ian's words were clear. "Your father died trying to keep this world safe." Kai's mind raced. His father had never abandoned them, he had sacrificed himself. And now it was Kai's turn to finish what his father had started. The weight of his destiny had never felt more real, and with it came a sense of determination. Kai would not let his father's death be in vain. He would protect the balance, no matter the cost. Kai stood at the edge of a vast chasm, the forces of darkness swirling around him. The creatures that had once haunted his nightmares were now in full form, charging toward him with glowing eyes. Kai felt the power of the other side surge through him as he raised his hand, calling upon the energy of the temple to help him. The final battle had begun. With every strike, Kai felt more in control, more connected to the power that had once been his father's. The creatures howled as they were banished back into the shadows, but they were relentless. Kai's body ached, but his spirit was unyielding. He had come too far to fail now. With one final, powerful blow, the darkness was banished, and the balance was restored. As the dust settled and the last of the creatures vanished, Kai stood victorious. The world around him seemed to calm, the tension lifting as the forces of darkness retreated. Ian approached, his expression proud. "You've done it, Kai. You've saved both worlds." Kai nodded, but his heart was heavy with the weight of what he had lost and gained. He looked toward the horizon, where the mist had cleared. "I won't forget what my father did," Kai said quietly. "And I'll protect this world, just as he did." Ian smiled, placing a hand on Kai's shoulder. "You are your father's son. You will always carry his strength within you." Kai took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his responsibility. He had found the truth, and with it, his purpose. Kai and Ian made their way back to the village, the landscape now bathed in sunlight. Kai's mind was still reeling from everything he had learned, but he felt a sense of peace wash over him. He had completed his father's mission, and now, he could return to his mother. The village looked the same, but Kai was no longer the same boy who had left. He was a warrior, a protector. When he entered the small house, his mother was waiting for him. She rushed to him, tears in her eyes. "You're safe," she whispered. Kai smiled gently, his heart full of love for her. "I'm home, mother. And I know the truth." His mother's eyes softened, and she embraced him tightly. "I'm so proud of you," she whispered. "Your father would be too." The moral of the story, Kai had learned the hardest lesson of all, that sometimes, the truth is hidden from us to protect us, but it is also necessary for us to grow. His journey had revealed the power within him, and he had learned to face the darkness with courage. He knew that his purpose was not just to protect the balance of worlds, but to carry on his father's legacy of love and sacrifice.